Welcome to Purposive Communication. This lesson is prepared and created by Ms. Raymond Zaira M. Fernandez, a faculty of the Department of Languages and Literature, College of Arts and Sciences, Central Mindanao University. Are you ready? In this unit, we will talk about communication processes, principles, models, and ethics. For the past lessons, we talked about the meanings of language and communication processes and elements, and definition, principles and relevance of purposive communication, verbal and nonverbal communication and models of communication. In this lesson we will talk about barriers of communication and ethics in communication. Do you have an idea about it? Objectives. At the end of the lesson, the learners must have performed the following with 85% accuracy: collated the barriers of communication, recounted the ethics in communication, and assessed a communicative event according to its ethical standards or unethical concerns. Let us start. How does communication break down? If people share the same experiences, encoding, transmitting and decoding messages could have been similar in many ways, thus symbols would have the same meaning as intended. The fact that each person is made unique by his/her distinct personal histories, experiences, and emotional responses, it is expected that each person also has different ways of encoding, transmitting, receiving and understanding messages. In addition to the difficulty in encoding and decoding messages, noise, which may be physical or psychological, can also disrupt communication. A successful communication is the one in which the message is conveyed undiminished with least distortion. However, it is not always possible, as a number of barriers make the process of communication complex. Now, let us get to know about these barriers. What is a barrier? Barrier or noise is a term used to express any interference in communication between source and receiver. Some of these barriers could be physical, psychological, cultural, linguistic, semantic, technical, or due to information overload. Now let us begin. The first type of barrier is physical barrier. If the source is not visible to the receiver and she or he is not comfortable in the environment, it may create barriers in communication. Geographical distance may also create barriers, as people may like to communicate with one another but due to physical distances may not be able to do so. Just look at the video. As you can see, there is a physical barrier between the sender and the receiver as they are not physically together. Have you also experienced this kind of setup? What are the difficulties you encounter having this kind of communication? Another type of barrier is the psychological barrier. Due to individual differences, attitudes, interest and motivation levels, we perceive things and situations differently. Apart from this, the varied levels of anxiety, inherent prejudices and previous experiences also create barriers in communication. Studies have revealed that due to the process of selective perception, selective recall and selective retention, we perceive, retain as well as recall a message selectively, thus creating barriers in communication. We also have sociocultural barrier. In communication process, sociocultural barriers also operate. Some societies are less vocal, which may affect their level of communication with those from other cultures who are more vocal or aggressive in behavior. Linguistic barriers. During the process of communication, faulty expressions, poor translation, verbosity, ambiguous words and inappropriate vocabulary create barriers. Moreover, words and symbols used to communicate facts and information may mean different things to different persons. This is due to the fact that meanings are in the minds of people who perceive and interpret meanings in different ways according to their individual frame of mind. We also have technical barriers. While using technology, Technical barriers also make the process of communication complex. When audio quality is poor or video signals are weak, the message may not clearly reach the target group. Erratic power supply also creates barriers in communication. At times too much information is imparted which we may not able to comprehend and assimilate, thus creating a barrier in communication. This is what you call information overload. To illustrate, in a meeting when a speaker provides information at a fast pace for considerable period of time, many of the issues and concepts may get lost at the end. While using media, this type of barrier can greatly affect the level of comprehension and utilization of the message. Hence, great care needs to be taken while deciding the amount of information in a communication transaction. Have you experienced this kind of barrier? Or how about the other types of barrier? Now let us have the ethics in communication. What is the difference between morals and ethics? Morals are personal codes. These are our own set of rules, so others are neither expected nor required to follow them. Ethics are societal codes. These are rules accepted and approved by society, so they are imposed upon everyone. To discuss further, ethics pertains to the standards of conduct, and it is especially vital in maintaining and strengthening relationships and making decisions. It may result in fairness, integrity, truthfulness or honesty and responsibility, which means that communication partners should be treated with respect and conflicts could be resolved by using reason or proof. Johnston in 1994 enumerated 10 ethics in communication. These are the following. We will have a discussion on each of the ethics enumerated. The first is mutuality. You have to pay attention to the needs of others, as well as yours. Always take note that you have to be mutual and consider other people when it comes to communicating with them. We also have individual dignity. This means that we should not cause another person embarrassment or a loss of dignity. Another on is accuracy. Ensure that others have accurate information. Tell them everything, for they have a right and need to know, not just what is true. Number 4 is access to information. Never bolster the impact of your communication by preventing people from communicating with one another or by hindering access to the supporting information. Accountability. Be responsible and accountable for the consequences of your relationships and communication. Another one is audience. As audience or receiver of the information, you also have ethical responsibilities. A good rule of thumb is the 200% rule, where both the sender and receiver have full or 100% responsibility to ensure that the message is understood, and that ethics are followed. The 7th is the relative truth. As either sender or receiver of information, remember that your own point of view may not be shared by others, and that your conclusions are relative to your perspective, so allow others to respectfully disagree or see it differently. Ends versus means. Be sure that the end goal of your communication and the means of getting to that end are both ethical, although no rule can be applied without reservation to any situation. Use of power. In situations where you have more power than others, just like a teacher with a student, a boss with a subordinate, a parent with a child, you also have more responsibility for the outcome. Lastly, rights versus responsibilities. You need to balance your rights against your responsibilities, even if you live in a wonderful society where your rights are protected by law. Not everything you have a right to do is ethical. All of these ethics must be applied to personal, academic, work and societal aspects of life, and whether or not the communication process involves face-to-face, virtual or real-time, social media chats or video confers. Can you think of one ethics in communication that you sometimes fail to apply in real life? Why do you think so? This concept is similar to other fields. For ethical consideration, Researchers need to cite authorities or sources of their literature, doctors need to see to it if they will not harm their patients, and journalists should maintain objective publications and ensure the protection of their sources of information. In this lesson, we discussed about barriers of communication and ethics in communication. That is end of Unit 1, Lesson 6. Thank you for watching. Stay tuned for our next topic about communication and globalization in Unit 2. Goodbye.